Greetings programs, Burnt Out Gamer here, and I am back again. And today, we're going to be talking about Robocop vs. Terminator, and if it's worth our time. So let's take a look. So before we get too deep into this, I gotta give you all a warning. This is not gonna be a good one. I really wanted to go into this loving this game because the source material, Robocop vs. Terminator, you cannot get much more cool than that. Unfortunately, this game has a lot of flaws that really bog it down. So let's take a look at all the good that it has, because it does have a lot of good in there. And unfortunately, go over all the bad, because, as I said, there's a lot of bad, and see where we end up. First off, the good. Robocop vs. Terminator looks great. The game absolutely is a masterpiece of aesthetics. It looks brilliant. It really captures that Robocop Detroit vibe that, Robocop 1 and 2 put out there, the dystopian, kind of on the verge of collapse future. It nails it. The game and the devs did an excellent job of using color while still being able to keep the game feeling dark and gritty. Later on in the game, it also does a great job of capturing that post-apocalyptic Terminator 2 vibe that was out there. Overall, just a masterpiece. The game also has really cool weapons. You get to pick up different ones and you upgrade throughout the game. The one that really always stood out to me though is you get to get Ed 209's gun. I remember seeing that as a kid and shitting bricks thinking how awesome that would be to walk around as Robocop shooting that. And going along with that, Robocop vs. Terminator also controls very well. For being a big guy, he jumps and moves around really easily. And for being what is essentially an action platformer, that needs to be a really tight aspect of the game. And later on, you hit these weird Mode 7 shooter levels that you kind of drive around in, and the game makes really clever use of the left and right bumper buttons, being able to turn while still being able to move forward on the D-pad. It's kind of like having analogs, so yeah, I think they did an excellent job with that as well. The game also features a password system. And on top of that, a very simple 4-character one as well, which is always a huge plus, especially for a game like this, which leans a little on the harder side. So for the good, in all honesty, that's about it. So what about the bad? Well, for starters, the controls may be good, but the enemies and their hitboxes suck. You can get into this weird spot where you're like, take damage by touching them, but you can't actually inflict damage to them. You like shoot past them. It's a huge pain in the ass. Which brings up, why no melee? For all the enemies that get in your bubble, why can't you just punch them? I mean, Robocop did in the movies plenty of times. And the AI will pursue you, to a fault. They'll just keep charging right at you over and over again, taking damage, almost always getting into a damage loop where you just have to sit there and repeatedly shoot at them. It's kind of a pain in the ass, and it gets real repetitive real quick. And it gets to be even more of a pain in the ass when other enemies also spawn up, prolonging the amount of time that you're just sitting there shooting them, waiting to move on. The levels themselves can also be unclear at times. In these games, you generally just go to the right, and don't get me wrong, as I said before, this game is beautiful. But how to get there and how to cross gaps is kind of vague, as sometimes it just blends in with the background. And the levels being unclear isn't the only thing that's left vague in this game. It's also the story. And that's all told through these comic panel cutscenes, which is fine, but they all drag out. And you're just left sitting there, staring at the screen, waiting for the next line to appear so you can read it. It gets tedious. It's really a shame too, because the original story is pretty awesome, talking about how OCP and the Robocop program led to Skynet and the creation of the Terminators. They really dropped the ball on this one, and it's a greatly missed opportunity. So at the end of it all, is Robocop vs. Terminator worth your time? I'm gonna say yes, just because of the source material, But don't go in this thinking it's going to be an awesome time all the way through, because there is plenty that is wrong with this game. So as always, programs, remember to force push that like button, click the sub, and always remember to be excellent to each other.